Welcome to the Redeemer Podcast. I'm your host, Zach, and today we are exploring Redeemer's physical education program. I am joined by third-year student Seth, who shares his experience in the program. If it is your first time here, make sure to like and subscribe, share with a friend, and check out some of our other episodes that explore various aspects of Redeemer, Christian education, and so much more. Thank you for making us part of your day, and with that, here we go. It's time. Yes, I know this is an episode that we've had many applicants that are looking forward to it. We're talking about Redeemer's physical education program, and I am welcoming Seth from the program. And Seth, first off, welcome to the podcast. And you're third year now, right?
Yep, going into third year phys ed. It's been a fun ride, that's for sure.
Oh, we're gonna explore into it, but let's maybe just start off with Seth. Could you maybe explain, why did you want to study physical education at Redeemer, and how did you get to the place where you are now?
Well, so largely coming out of high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to study at all, not gonna lie. And it came down to where I had to make a decision, and I obviously I'm an athletic guy, so I wanted to maybe coach and teach stuff. So I had a lot of coaching experience prior to university as well, which led me a lot to knowing that I wanted to maybe work with kids in the future. And then, so that kind of just shone a light on physical education for me personally. And so, yeah, I just kind of decided when I made the choice to go to Redeemer that phys ed was really just the best decision for me overall.
Oh, okay, awesome. And what was that first year in the physical education program like? What was your experience?
It was pretty good. It was a good little taste of a little bit of like more difficult work, right? Obviously that you get with university, but also not overwhelming, if you will. Like it wasn't crazy in any capacity. It was definitely a lot. Obviously you have a lot more classes in first year with a lot of every single first year. Like you have a lot of core classes as well, which is great for getting to know people as well. And then phys ed, you're with kinesiology students as well in most of your classes as well. So it's just a great time to get to know everybody pretty much.
Yeah, and maybe could you explain a bit, what kind of courses do you take during the physical education program?
So you take a lot of KPE, so kinesiology based courses. So it's not, a lot of people think about phys ed and they think of it as a like super easy, just gym class like style thing, but it's not really a straightforward, super simple journey, if you will. Like there is a lot of like body and like science of the body and stuff that you have to know, anatomy and so forth. So it's kind of a little bit different than most people think of it, but it's definitely still so fun for me to enjoy. So
Yeah, and so taking courses to help you understand how the body works, and how an athlete might have to recover from an injury or game management, that sort of thing. What about do you take any courses directly involved in coaching or teaching?
yeah, so there's a few different so there's what you'll do is there's fundamental courses, which fundamentals just help diversify your knowledge in different areas. So like there's dance, pickleball, basketball, there's volleyball, a bunch of different fundamentals just to get you more in tune with with other individual sports or applications that you might not be familiar with. And as well,
Right.
coaching as well. I took a coaching course, which was a great time, and it goes through Canada's like NCCP certification stuff for that kind of thing. You don't get a certification, but it just guides you into what it would actually be like and entail, which was a really good course.
Very interesting. Very cool. And so would you say, I know you're in third year, you have the summer and then your fourth year, but do you have an idea about kind of what you're thinking of doing with this degree after Redeemer?
Well, I haven't really made up my mind yet, but there's a few, like there's one, like obviously teaching is definitely on the table. Like I
Yeah.
personally would think I would like to teach at a high school, and me personally, if I were to teach, I would do it for coaching sports teams because that's what I love doing, right? But like,
Mhm.
so that's definitely something that's on the table, but I really have not committed to that in any capacity. I'm just kind of going along and see where the Lord leads me in the end of it.
Yeah, totally. And I do know other people that they graduate the physical education program and sometimes they go on to additional schooling or sometimes they look to get into, coaching with professional sports teams. Do you have any kind of peers that have kind of gone more that route or looking to go that route?
I definitely know of people that are looking a lot more at the coaching side of things for sure. Like I'm one of them, like realistically. Like
Mhm.
that's somewhere I would definitely look personally is more in the coaching side of things because that's what I enjoy more about it. I wouldn't enjoy
Mhm.
like teaching health class or something in grade 10 physical education, right? I wouldn't really enjoy that. I would enjoy coaching the high school sports team. So that's something I would look into. And then see, just trying to build experience as well is something I will need to do because a lot of coaching jobs, right, are very dependent on experience in the certain area or sport, right?
For sure, yeah. And maybe, could you expand upon what have been some of your favorite parts about the physical education program?
Um, Definitely some of the. I think it's a very good balance of hard workload and some still fun in it, if you will. Like
Hmm.
the fundamentals classes, they're not very much work, but they're a blast. But there's also like
Yeah.
hard courses, like I'm in care and prevention of injuries, which is a really hard course, but it teaches
Yeah.
you a lot, right? So it's a
That sounds like a very important course to
it is
take.
a very important course. It's a great balance, right? That the program I feel like has, to be honest.
That's great. And could you maybe expand upon what's your relationship like with your professors during the program?
Well, it's pretty good overall, right? Small class sizes because overall Redeemer is not massive in any capacity, and like every single professor knows me by name. I know them by name. Like we have good
That's
conversations whenever we need to have good conversations, right? Great teaching. Teach you the hard way sometimes, but it's totally worth it in the end. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And it's coming back to me now that I actually, when I was a student at Redeemer, I actually did take a fundamentals of tennis course at Redeemer. That was a lot of fun. But those fundamental courses are great. Like you mentioned, they are quite fun. Do you have a favorite of those fundamental courses of yours?
I took fundamental of experimental and games, which was just pretty much we
Oh,
just every single week. It's only like once a week style course, right? Because it's not a full credit, but it's you would every single week we would just play pretty much a different game, and each person would present once or twice just a different game, which was just great. Like we played basketball one week, volleyball the next. Like it's like typical high school gym games as well. Like with I can't think of one right now to be honest, but
like
just like
capture the flag or something?
capture the flag, like just that kind of fun stuff. Which was it was a great class. I enjoyed it so much.
That does sound like a lot of fun. That's cool. Well, what about the kind of academic component? Like, do you find yourselves, do you write a lot of papers or presentations, or is it a lot of like you have to show up and do kind of a workshop of a game of some kind?
So it depends where I am in my semester. So certain semesters of mine are more heavily placed on my minors, which I have a minor in politics and geography. So when I
Okay.
have a semester that's more focused on those two in terms of course load, that's when I more have a paper writing semester, if you will. I have like a
Hmm.
lot more papers to write. But when it comes to like this semester specifically, I have a lot more like kin based classes, which is a lot more just labs where you're doing a lot of it hands on, as well as
Right.
like, so like care and prevention, right? Is we go through specific tests to test for certain injuries, right? And so those have been that's the more of the style, and then obviously with kin, it's more of a midterm based style as well. So I just had a midterm yesterday for care and prevention, which went way better than I thought it was gonna. And
Oh, there you go.
so that was good, but yeah, so it's just a bit different.
And you mentioned that you have labs in the kin program. There there's a specific lab for kinesiology courses, correct?
Yeah, so there's own lab like room, if you will. I have like two. I'm in two kin classes right now that require labs. The first is assessment of human fitness, and the second is care and prevention. So assessment is just we're in there like doing like heart rate, blood pressure, simple stuff like that, and eventually we're into complicated stuff like amount of oxygen you can take in maximally, right? Which is kind of a little, it's interesting stuff to learn because that's this kind of stuff that they do in professional sports, right? They'll take what's called VO2 max for like NHL players and stuff, which is really interesting.
Wow, that is fascinating. Very, very cool. And would you say like did you start in that laboratory right in your first year? You're right in the labs doing those kind of experiments.
Not really necessarily, uh, because in the first two courses, the first two courses you would take in phys ed, well, I only took the first one because in phys ed you only have to take one of the first year courses, which was kind of nice. But the first year course, I didn't have any labs in my one KPE first year course I took. They started in second
Okay.
year is when they more pick up pace.
Okay.
That's for sure.
Okay, so that's kind of how the program's kind of designed that way. And then in those courses, do I know when a lot of these episodes, students will talk about their relationships with their profs, but also with their peers. Can you describe what's your relationship with other physical education students?
Well, it's pretty good. Like I'm friends with quite a few of them, right? And it's just good to because like it's interesting just comparing courses with them and like oh and it's almost like nice comparing it against the kin students because we're like oh you have to take that really hard course I do not, and it's really funny when me and the phys ed people could just be like okay we only have to take one extremely hard course, you have to take four, so I'm feeling pretty good about myself right now.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. That very cool. Very cool. Do you have any specific? You already you've shared a few things, but do you have any specific stories about a cool project you did, or a favorite class that you've had?
Ooh, let me think. Favorite class that I've had. Well, obviously, I don't. I won't count fundamentals of games as my favorite class because that's. I feel like that's cheating. I think that's cheating slightly. I would say the class I'm currently in, I'm enjoying a lot. Care and prevention.
Mhm.
It's not an easy course in any way, but it's something that I find will be very applicable to my future and whatever I decide to do. So that's something I kind of just appreciate, and I wouldn't say I fully like I do enjoy it, but not to the point where I'm like, I would take this class over. But it's one of those things where it's like, it's something that I will take and remember and be useful for the rest of my career. So,
Yeah, actually, it's funny. I had a friend who I remember when I was a student at Redeemer. He talked about that class specifically, and he was helping someone who had torn a rotator cuff, and not professionally or anything, but he was able to like take their injury and bring it to class and actually have discussion about like the muscles involved in that injury, how they heal, like some heal faster than others, what are some ways to help encourage healing in the body, and all really interesting stuff. So that's the kind of things that course would kind of dive into.
yeah, very much so. Like, it's very specific in terms of anatomy of specific injuries as well. Like, you'll go into it's very specific overall. Like, so, like, for
Mhm.
example, like we learned about the what's called tennis elbow. It's where tennis players tend to like just get a inflamed like tendon on the outside of their arm, right? And then we learned specific tests that you do to actually test for that, which is really just been super informative because if I ever somehow end up with a athlete that has a sore outside of their forearm or something, I can start pointing some and figuring out what it is, right?
Definitely. And so, Seth, just to give our viewers some context here, I know you've been very involved at Redeemer in various capacities. Uh, you're in the program, the physical education program. You're on the AV team still? Is that
That is
you've been
still,
doing
yeah.
that for a while? Yeah, and then you're an RA also,
I
right?
am an RA also, yes.
I always love to ask, what how has the RA experience been for you in your third year?
I've enjoyed it. It's been, to be honest, I've loved it. It's like, it's really given me the opportunity to like just show first years around. And I really enjoy doing that. Like, I enjoy that in my AV job too, training and just like
Yeah.
showing people the ropes kind of. I really enjoy doing that. And so being able to use my experiences here at Redeemer, the good and the bad, right? Just to show first years and be like, hey, it's a great course, or hey, not a great course, but you got to take it, right? Like it's great that I have that knowledge, and it's been great to pass on. I've enjoyed it so much, to be honest.
For sure. I don't want to distract from our listeners that are here to talk about physical education, but I just want people to know that you're a very involved student. You have a lot of stuff going on right now. And in that regards, what advice would you give to prospective students that maybe they're in high school or maybe they're at another post-secondary institution considering transferring? What advice would you have for them if they're considering Redeemer's physical education program?
I think I'll just tie back to a lot of the points I made earlier. So it's not necessarily a cakewalk, right? Like it's not what the typical stereotypical phys ed is necessarily. There are some opportunities for that kind of stereotypical, if you will, phys ed, but like expect kinesiology based classes, right? Like you're not just going to be here to play games, right? It is learning about the human body and stuff like that. And like, but just beyond, you just learn a lot really quick, and it's super informative for the rest of your life. And to be honest, I don't know of another program that I would do at Redeemer. So personally, I love phys ed, but it definitely is not the only option either, though.
That's awesome. Very cool. And would you say that is there anything you wish you would have done or known before you started the program?
Oh,
That's a toughie.
let me think, because I got to think back now.
Yeah, I know. 3 years fly by when you're in
Really
university.
I just feel like I didn't really know exactly what the structure would be like of classes, right? In terms of, especially phys ed, I just felt like it was like there was a bunch of numbers there, right, into what courses you had to take, right? But it was like I didn't know actually what you would actually entail in those courses, and it just kind of, I feel like it would have been better for me to know personally just what each course actually went over, and so that I could have known beforehand, which might have just been on me for not really taking an in-depth look enough into the courses. But I feel like a lot of incoming students probably don't. So I just, if you can, I would just encourage you to really look at what you're actually going to be taking, because you don't want to get into any situation where you don't know, and then all of a sudden you don't like what your degree is, right? So it's kind of right. Just kind of look at it. I'm not saying that about phys ed. I love phys ed, but yeah, I'm just saying just be careful so that you can make a good choice.
Yeah, and I guess just on that note, are there, because there is crossover with the kin program, do you know of students who they start in the kin program and transfer to phys ed, or they start in phys ed and they transfer over to kin? Because I know the way Redeemer's degree structure is, they do kind of allow for that within the first year.
Yeah, there's definitely opportunity to switch, definitely, and I don't know people that have personally switched between the two, but it's definitely very, like, it's a feasible option, very much so, because like a lot, like even guys in my dorm right now, like they're all kin or phys ed, they're taking the same courses, right this first year. Right. So it really gives you a little bit of leeway room to decide, do you want to like double down on this kinesiology kind of thing, or stay in a more like education based way, right?
Cool. Oh, that's good, helpful insight for sure. Well, Seth, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day, and really appreciate you coming on this episode of the Redeemer Podcast.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
And if you are watching this and you want more information about the physical education program at Redeemer, check out our website. And of course, feel free to reach out to us at admissions@redeemer.ca. We're happy to connect with you. And God bless, and we'll see you in the next episode.